even the idolization is also thought as bad. Well, the thing that I want to say is nothing much. Well, even such a process are nothing special, but it's a way towards our study. So even when you study, if you are very unlucky, if you are always very dry, you cannot proceed towards the way to study. And also, if your thoughts are dark, and so if you don't understand what has been taught, that's also not very favorable. And also, if you have many wrong thoughts, that's also not so good. It's almost like inside the seed, if you have many seeds of the wheat, and if you have
생각을 갖고 있는데 자꾸 삿된 생각을 많이 갖고 있으면 마치 씨앗 속에 그 안에 그 잡초 씨앗이 많이 있어서 그 씨앗을 뿌려 놓으면 그냥 그 뭐냐
if this becomes something bad, like well, what is the wrong path? It's entering the wrong path, and wrong path here refers as even if you go there, it doesn't do you any good. So if you go somewhere, eventually when you follow the path, you sometimes reach a cliff, and sometimes it's full of thorns and it's very difficult to go. And some paths, even if you go, although you have gone, once you have reached, it's a place that's totally different from what you have imagined from the first time.
많이 있고 어떤 길은 아주 가시밭길이 돼서
So when you are going forward your studies,
가긴 갔는데
in order to reduce many obstacles, we do offering, and also we make our prayers. Well, Buddhism is nothing special, but until so far when I have studied, there's nothing superficial or mysterious about here or fancy. Well, it's just one thing. If you don't do evil things, you suffer less. What is an evil thing? Evil thing is harming others. If you don't do that, then you will no longer have suffering.
고통 덜 받는다고 뭐야.
If you ask, why is it so that you're doing many good things and feeding your husband, but you still have your own suffering? Why is it so? That's because of your past life. Although you don't remember your past life,
맨날 밥 해주고 그랬는데 왜 그런 거야? 그건 전생에
because of the sins that you have committed in your previous life, you receive what's in here.
기억이 별로 아무나
So
없긴 해도
if your husband doesn't give you money, you have to think that this is the outcome of what you have done in your previous life.
때문에 받는 거란 말이야. 그냥 뭐
The most basic thing in Buddhist teaching
시간이 돈 안 줬으면 안 줘도
is offering to others, and also
생각을 해야 딱 정리가
not doing any evil thing. If you don't do evil thing, then the obstacles in your life would reduce. And
한 기본이 그냥 부처님 가르치는 가장 기본이 대학
if all evil things disappear, then
모든 그 악한 일을 안 하는 거야. 그러면 내 사는데 자꾸 장애가 생겨.
then even if you live your life in your own freedom, you will no longer have any thorns sticking up with you. It's all because of the obstacles that you have committed. So you should never ignore the very basics in Buddhism.
손에 따르게 걸리는 가시 쪽으로 가는 거구나.
But if you only say you're not doing any evil things to others, and there's also the problem of weakening of helping others. So it's good to live your life helping others. And even when you're helping others, you need to have your own wisdom. If you help a thief, then the thief will sell more. And if you help them fight, then they'll help the person who has been held fighting. They will go to hell sooner.
놈을 도우면 도둑놈이 더 빨리
Stopping them from committing that act is actually helping them. Even drinking, you're helping them if you tell them not to drink. But if you give them alcohol because that person drinks well, that's not helping that person, but it's like you're pushing them off the cliff. So even helping,
수능
Well, you have to study the cause and effect law, and you have to think that if you help this way, you are helping the other person's future. You have to think. Even help, you need to be wise to help properly.
부모님도 인과를 가만히
And
살펴봐가지고
doing bad things, we all do bad things because of our own greediness. If we lessen our own greediness by little, then doing bad things would also reduce.
나쁜 일을 하는 것은 전부 다 지욕심 때문에 나쁜 일. 욕심을
But if you're not able to distinguish what is good and what is bad,
나쁜 일을 하는 것이
then even if you have done good thing, you don't know if you have done the good thing or the vice versa.
뭐가 나쁜 일이냐,
You understand?
좋은 일이냐, 요거를 갖다가 구분을
But
잘 못하고
then who is actually the one who is doing all the thing? In other words, why are we doing the good and bad things? We are not doing it for the good of others, but we are actually doing it for ourselves.
내가 지금
So people with different religion,
누구냐면
they say it happened because of the absolute God.
나 때문에
But then, if it's because of the God, the absolute God, then you have, even if you commit sin, the God has to take care of the karma. But it is not so. That's weird. So, but as with Buddha, if you do something good, you receive the karma for it, and also if you do something bad, then you have to take care of what you have done. And also, being pure in Buddhism, it is not wearing a clean cloth, but is actually getting rid of the greediness.
나를 깨끗이 하는 것이
If you get rid of the greediness, then it removes all the reasons why to do bad things at all. You understand? So the teachings of Buddha, from the beginning to the end,
이유가 한 개도 없어.
with the greediness, your heart becomes dirty and foolish, and also it causes suffering. And
그냥 불법을 처음부터 끝까지
well, even if you are sitting 40 to 50 years in the mountain practicing, that is also some crazy act.
그래서 내가
If you have the basic basis with you, then even Tsongkhapa has said that it takes only 2 to 3 months to practice samatha, and so has many great other teachers. But if you are not prepared, if you're not ready, then even if you are sitting there for 3 years, you will not be able to achieve your dream.
그렇게 얘기했어. 사마타 수행을 하는 것도
So the essence here is I.
3년을 갖다가
That is it. I throw away the greediness. I am the one who is throwing away the greediness, and also I am the one who is also causing the greediness, and also it is me who suffers because of the greediness, and also who gains happiness. And also, as per the time frame,
그 욕심을 일으키는 이체도 나이고 그래서
you never become happy later. And also, it's not okay to say you'll do it later. If you do it now, then you have the seed of happiness.
나중에 행복
Well, if you have planted the sesame oil seed, then we say the farm is a sesame oil seed farm. Just like that, if you do good things, then even while living, even if you don't have the consequence, or even if you are not paid back by it, you're still happy because you have planted the seed of happiness. If you study this hard, then Buddhism is very clear. And also you realize that it is not a story that's so far away from our world. This is something that in this area, in this space, the Buddhism teaches us how to live properly in this area, and in this space, and in this time.
지금 내가 지금 여기에서 이 장소에서 내가 마음 바로 먹고 바로 살 수 있는 것이
Again, now about 20 people are your yes or no is not very clear. Well, when I went to church, I did a lecture and I asked them, "Isn't that so?" And they replied to me, "Amen," and I was very surprised.
교회는 가니까 나는 어디 가서 교회 가서 한번 강의를 한 적이 있어.
So Buddhism, if you argue about it, then you realize that there's nothing difficult. But it's just that you live in a good way, and that you are trying to make others happy. Well, sometimes I think about it nowadays that even if the person goes to church and if the person is happy, then I would try to help the person to go to church. Well, where people told me not to talk about coloring the hair. So when I thought about it, well, I cannot ask people to shave their hair like me. Well, but then if you color your hair and if you walk around, then you can actually fool yourself that you're at least 1 year younger. Even if it's an effect out of a lie, well, if it makes you happy, then I am willing to help you. Well, I'm willing to not discuss about it. So, helping others to become happy. What is others? It is not only human being.
그 말 알아서 안 할 생각이 있어. 그러니까 남을 도와주겠다, 행복.
Where someone has also said in front of our houses that we should also write the house of the Buddhist, and also the stores we could write the store of Buddhist. Then are you not going to sell it to the Christians?
앞에다가 불자의 집 쓰고
Well, the
이 가게 그래가지고 하라고.
the Unification Church, I heard that they get married amongst those who only believe Unification Church. Does it make sense?
결혼한다 그러더라.
But if we write the house or the store of this, it implies that we want to live happily ourselves. So it's not good. And I was very amazed at what Dalai Lama has said.
그건 벌써 폐쇄입니다. 안 된다.
When
나는 정말로 감동을 받은 달라이라마께서 바로 그 내가 목격하니까
when from UK, the Anglican Church, about 20 of the priests came and they wanted to change their religion. Dalai Lama said no. He said, I will help you to study, but it doesn't really have much meaning in changing the system. Whether you have shaved your hair or whether you have your hair, it doesn't really make sense.
공부하는 데는 내가 도와주겠다. 형식을 바꾸는 것은 별로 의미 없다.
It's not only being happy ourselves, but if you are really happy and if you are really content about it, then I also agree with how you live your life.
먹고 잘 사는 이런 얘기가 아니고 그대가 정신으로 깨어 있고
This is a Buddhist teaching, so even after 2,600 years, there has never been a war because of Buddhism. Never once. And there was never a case that Buddhism has encouraged war too. It has always stopped wars. It has always prevented wars. So even worldly scholars, they give their statement that Buddhism is the only way forward because it has been historically proven. So Buddhist teaching is very easy,
불교만이 앞으로 대안이다.
but it's very difficult to get rid of our greediness. It's not easy.
분명히 다 되어졌기 때문에
I always emphasize that when we are young, we used to make
불법이라는 것은 매우 쉬운 단지 이제 우리가 욕심을 버리기가 그게 좀 어려워.
something, and if we use the bamboo that's 1 year old, then it's easy to they would break because it's weak. So you have to use the bamboo about 3 to 4 years, and you tie it up and you will hang it there.
이게 약해가지고 금방 부러지거나 휘어져 버려.
You will hang it there. Then those who are short-tempered, about 1 year later, they would make the kind of net. Then the first they would stay closed.
달아놓는다. 그러면 이제
And if you use it to gather the leaves, that will straighten out.
알코올을 만들어 버려.
So even if we have made ourselves thinking that we will try not to be greedy, the greediness will come back to its original place.
휘어져 버려.
And that is the habit.
욕심을 내가 안 해야 되겠다 그렇게 하고 마음을 먹었더라도
Well, stretch out your right hand.
제자리로 돌아가 버리고 제자리로 돌아가 버리고 자꾸 이렇게 돼.
Do it like this. It's easy, right?
습관이라.
Try to straighten it out, stretch out towards the back. Does it work? Well, the power of pulling is 100 times stronger than pushing.
뒤로 한번 제껴 보시죠. 뒤로. 돼요?
Even doing this is stronger, but stretching it out is weak. Because we don't have the habit of giving it others.
욕심 채리는 게.
It's very difficult to stretch out this and give it. Whatever it is, you have to get it
약하다니까.
and bring it.
왜? 주는 버릇이 하도 안 들어서.
So even when you are
요렇게 펴가지고 요렇게
even when you're working on the farm, you're pulling the leaves, weeds like this. You're not pulling it the other way. So even plowing the farm, we do it as per our greediness.
밭을 멜 때 불을 요렇게 요렇게
So the Buddhist teaching is all about praying, reciting mantras, studying, and also meditating. All of them,
반면에 시킵니다.
we are doing it in order to get rid of the greediness, which is also deep in our hearts. The meditation is done in order to get rid of our greediness. Why is it so? Because if we have the greediness, we will have many thoughts that changes, and if it changes a lot, then you could also have the Alzheimer. You too. If you keep thinking about what to do, then you'll start tying up your hair. And then what happens? Later you will be thinking that you don't even know what could happen.
너무 오락가락. 여러분들도 이렇게
So in your heart, if you have very strong sense of I, and because of that, if your greediness is out very loudly, and if it sways, which is correct, which is more beneficial to your greediness, then it will cause you headaches.
고집이 아집이
And that all happened because of greediness, and also because of the origination of greediness, which is also called as I. And Buddhism is all about throwing away that. Why? Because if you throw that away, then you feel comfortable.
힘의 근원인
You feel comfortable if you let it go.
그것이 고집되어진 것 때문에 그렇게 일어나는 것이란 말이야.
Well, when I go out to care the old people in like nursing homes, in some of the houses, if there is fire, then they have so many things inside the house, up to the level that the person could also die, stuck in the things in the house. But from what I saw, they're all useless. But that person said it's all useful. But from the eyes of Buddha, there is nothing in this world that ever exists that is useful. But for the eyes of all other beings, they all think it's all useful because depending on their greediness. But think about how much suffering it causes. The things that I had attachments for, the things that I have obsession for. My sister is also here, but she said, whenever Jinok do not get old, well, how can I not age? It's changing.
내가
Why is that so? Because my elder sister took care of me and brought me up.
동안 계시지만 그러더라고. 아이고 우리 신 늙지 마시고 내가 안 늙을 수가 있나?
And you also wear pants that's open at the bottom so that you could pee. And I also had a picture of that.
왜저 뭐야 그
And although she says she hopes that I don't age, but there is no way that I could not age. The world is all very futile.
그리고 사진 찍은 게 있더라고 보니까.
And the futile here refers as it changes.
그리고 뭐 아까워서 안 늙었으면 좋겠다 그러지만
Because it's so delicious, if I hide it and if I find it after a week, then we find it rotten.
허망한 거야.
So you have to eat if you have something that is delicious. If you keep it aside, then it will all rot.
그래서 몰래 감춰놓고 잠깐 일주일 잊어버리고 찾았는데 보니까 다 썩어 있더라고 말이야.
So while living, we ask you to take rest. The taking rest is doesn't mean you should take rest while you're working, but it means you should let go of your greediness a little. Yesterday, when I saw the TV, I saw Kim Moo-sung with some blisters on the lips, and I thought he should have so much arguments because of that. He was like a sandwich, so like he was pushed from up and down and from all directions, and because of that he has a blister. And when I saw the Minister of Unification, he also had on the other side. He's pushed from Japan, China, and also America, and also the Korean citizens. We also deny what he's doing. And also, when so many people are doing other things, we also ask for the evidence, and it gives them a difficult time. And so, even someone like Kim Moo-sung, if he says I don't want to be a president, then there will be no reason for him to have blisters on his lips.
아주 그러니까 힘들잖아요. 그렇죠?
If it was me,
아니 씨 같은 경우도 나
I would say, well, you should do better than me, and I would just give it up.
안 할라요. 그러고 무슨 입술 지르진다.
Well, it's all difficult because of our greediness. So when I always compare, I tell you that when you have so much locks on your back, and if you feel very tired about it, if someone comes and lifts up even one twig, it makes it much lighter. And also when you're boiling water,
되게 무거울 때 이제
even when you're going to boil some water in a pot, if you just put one scoop of water, it always, even the bubble goes down. It doesn't bloat up. It doesn't overpour. But nowadays we don't know how to let that go, and because of that, the caps it overflows. But I have seen that at the time of President Roh Moo-hyun. I've seen it at the time that he has let it go, and because of that. Well, but because he has given up so many times, or to say he has let it go so many times, he passed away because of that. And because of the responsibility, his responsibility for his family was so strong. When they were attacking his family, he could not bear it. So if we want to be a little more comfortable, then we should let go of attachment towards our kids too. Understood?
치고 들어오니까 이제 못 견딘 거야. 그러니까 우리가 조금 편해지려 그러면
The first daughter is Myunghwa, and she's my aunt, and she was very close to me when I was young.
이 막내
But then she had so many daughters. How many daughters do you have?
근데 내가 근데 나하고
6. After you also had one more.
명하고. 근데 딸만 쭉 낳았거든. 딸이 몇이요?
So you have 7.
예?
You have 6 daughters.
6명이야. 영이 놓고 그다음에 한 명 더 낳았잖아.
So
예?
the father wanted the daughter to be like the admiral, so named the child Charyong. So
그래가지고
when you see the mothers, it's inevitable. It's my son, it's my daughter.
성체지니까
You have to let it go at times. It's useless. It's not very useless. So if we ask you to let it go a lot, then it's difficult. So just let it go like about 10%, slightly. Just let it go about like this much, very lightly. If you do that, then you'll also have a little more peace of mind. Even if you claim that you have let it go, if you lie down in the night, if you think that you could also build 12 houses, or you could start thinking about your first daughter too. And then tomorrow, I'm going to get some chili and send some to my first daughter and to my second daughter. And to my fourth child, since she has many children, I could send about this. And well, so the grandmothers, they stay in the farm, trying to look out for things to give to children, and somehow the chili plants, they're taller than you, and your grandchildren are even worse. They're so busy taking biscuits from your that offering the table, and they don't even know that you have passed away. And they're actually happy on the day of the death offering because there are a lot of things to eat. And also your children, they're not very useful, so let it go a little. But since you're not able to let it go, it sticks in your heart, and you start thinking about it a lot, and you repeat your worries, and then the attachment becomes stronger. If it gets stronger, then it becomes worse, and then later, well, this is not saying of Buddha, but it is my saying. Later, if you have a very strong attachment, you could also become a ghost. Well, as I said, this is not the saying of Buddha, but it is saying of me. And you could also become a weird ghost if your attachment is too strong. So it is also not very favorable. I also asked when I went to India, have you seen a monk who has become a ghost and brought some knife? And is there any legends about it? They said no, because monks, they have learned how to let it go. They don't have so much wrath or anger. But in Korea, in the folk tale, mostly the female ghosts, they come with their hairs loose and they bring knives because it's not good. It's not favorable, especially the women, Korean women. They should, if they let it go, then the world would find a little peace. If you let go of problems about your children, then even the issues about education would solve a little. So the Buddhist teaching, just like this, is doing good things and not doing bad things. Well, some might say that, well, that is nothing, but at the higher level, you have to gain enlightenment. But that is all very ideal. That's ideological way. If you say you have become Buddha, where can there be any Buddha who is not kind, who is not good? Where how can there be an evil Buddha? Also, repeatedly while thinking, if you think, because your life is so pathetic, if you pray to Buddha, do not hope that he will help you. He cannot help you. Buddha cannot change the bean into a red bean. The bean cannot become the red bean, and the red bean cannot become the black bean. You too, even while you do your farming, if you have planted chili, but you don't need the chili, but you want paprika, and if you pray for it, there's no reason, there is no way that that could happen. So amongst the things that Buddha said, in Jijangsambu Sutra, those people who does good things and those people who help other people's happiness are those who are trying to be happy. And those who are doing evil things to others, those who are trying to cause sickness or unhappiness to others, they are trying to go to hell. In this world, they have not even sent out invitation, but a lot of people go to hell, and that's because of the greediness and also your attachment. You believe that this is our body, we have to live a long time, and uh, and people who believe that this is everything about your life, then the door to hell is wide open for them. But
영원히 살아야 되고 욕심으로서 이게 전부 내 인생의 전부다라고 생각하고 사는 사람은 그건 지옥에 가는 것이 그냥 문이 훤히 열렸단 말이야. 그러나
but even the world of even the different levels of hell, why are we not able to go there? We are not able to go there because of our greediness too. So all of you, you have to continue doing the things, becoming better. Weirdly, is it easier to do good things or is it easier to do bad things, evil things?
여러분 착해지는 일을
Well, you're doing evil things.
해야 됩니다.
Evil things are very difficult.
착한 일을 하기 위해서
If you want to do bad things, well, if
악한
first, even if you're trying to hit someone, then you have to get angry first.
악한 일은 그게 참 어려웁니다.
If you want to do good things, then you have to smile first.
악한 일을 하려 그러면 만약에 누굴 한 대 때리려 그래도 내부터 성질을 내야 돼.
So it's beneficial to us. How good is it that you can do it even smiling,
일을 하려 그러면 나부터
even at the broad daylight? Even at the broad light, if you do a good thing, there's no way that you would be handcuffed. But even if you're still in the very dark night, you still would be handcuffed.
한가운데서 선행을 해도 수갑 찰 일이 없단 말이야.
And so it's way easier to give others in the broad daylight than stealing in the middle of the night.
그러니까 밤잠을 설정하면
Well, because I say this, some people could also wonder that it's very difficult to understand that when you give to others, you feel a little bad about it. It is not so. First, I need to be happy, and also, although the things that you're giving to others, you don't expect them to come back, but they are bound to come back. It's almost like you let go of the salmon. If you let go of the salmon, then they go down the road that they have been hatched from the egg, and they come back to where they were born. Weirdly, they come back to where they were born. They don't go to any other valleys. Their GPS is so accurate that they don't go to other places. So when you do good things, the consequence of good things is bound to come back to you. And also, we are not doing it because it comes back to you. Bodhisattva still does it even if it doesn't come back to you.
선행을 하면 선행의 결과는
We still do it.
내게 오게 돼 있어. 그 내게
That's how a practitioner should practice.
보리사트와는
And also, all the believers who belong to Sakcha Monastery, you have to live your life with that kind of attitude. Someone has also said to me before, in the broadcasting channel, they asked me to stress on how they propagate people. But then, if collecting is people, if making more people together, isn't that like selling medicines, like spreading Buddhism? It is nothing more, but it's nothing like collecting or asking people together, but you change people's heart from something that is unfavorable to favorable, and something from something good to even better.
마음 변화
You change your heart, you change your speeches, you change your behavior, so that you give that platform of how a karma could change. You understand?
그걸 전시합니다. 마음을 변화시키고 말을 변화시키고
Before, when I saw you prostrating, the Buria, she had knee surgery, so she had problems. Also, when I heard from here,
보니까 보리아보살은 무릎
the sound of the knee all worn out and cracking. It's almost like the door of rich person opening.
그러니까 무릎이
Your
꽉
knees
막혀가지고
and
무릎이 그러는
your
소리가
legs, they're all worn out.
이렇게 대문 열리는 소리야.
And also it's good if you have strength in your arms, but even your arms are out of energy, and so you prostrate now. But I think after soon after, you could also say that you find it difficult even to prostrate because uh,
그러면서 이제
uh,
그걸
you're already old. And later you could also complain that it's difficult for you to sit down.
절도 못 하겠습니다. 그거 이제 앉아
But those who have gathered like this,
좀 있으면 아이고 뭐 와서 앉아 있지도 못하겠습니다. 그런 분도 계셔.
although my mother has passed away and her bone is here, and the aunt, there are also someone who has deep relation with my mother. So they came to this life and became an aunt. What does an aunt mean? When we say aunt of the mother's side, they're like mothers on the mother's family. If I'm wrong, tell me so, or say amen.
외가 쪽의 어머니와 같은 분이란 뜻이야. 그죠? 그죠? 틀리란 말이 그렇게 아멘 하든지
Although that happens so in this life, but then if we argue about the previous lives, although they do this here, well, I don't think there will be anyone who are not even once my mother's in the previous life. In next life, I hope they will all be rich and also have the straight mind and also intelligent.
다음 생에 만날 때는 이분들이
And also their appearance, I hope they don't look like stones,
생각도 반듯하고 머리도
but look like young.
백발이든지 말든지 하여튼 머리도 좋고 생긴 것도 옥돌매처럼 안 생기고
Well, I heard that Young gets about 3 million for one episode, and she's doing 50 episodes. I cannot even calculate.
그렇게 하면 이영이는
She's earning 150 million.
촬영하는데 3억 받는데
So even the appearance, it should be good like that.
50회 보면 뭐 얼마야? 계산이 안 돼.
If our nose are flat and
5, 35, 150억.
if it's pointed up, and also you don't look much different after makeup.
뭐 인물도 뭐 코도 그냥 펑크죠.
In your next life, those believers of Sakcha Monastery, I hope you look even better than Young. And those male believers, I hope you are even handsome than Chang Donggon. And also, I hope you would have more money than Igoni.
보다 더 잘생겼어. 그죠?
And I hope you live longer than Juju, Venerable Juju. He lived up to 120. Don't you think we should be born like that?
그죠? 예? 장수복은 조주스님보다 조주스님 120살까지 살았거든.
If you're born a petty, you get angry if your husband doesn't give you money, and if you argue about it, then it's not interesting, isn't it? Well, it's not up to how you have expected.
쪼잘하게 태어나가지고
At least,
그만둔다고 신경질이 나가지고 뭐 쪼고쪼고 이거 재미없잖아. 수지 안 맞아.
if you want to go somewhere, then at least they should be able to send you with your own private jet, just like Richard Gere.
나 어디 좀 갔다 오려면 그래 전세기 그저내 자가용 비행기 타고
When I was exercising this morning outside, I saw the moon, and it was hung somewhere in the mountain.
오늘 내가 아침에 운동장에
And I thought, if we are lucky enough, just like the 16th day of the moon, it'll be good enough. If our luck is even less than the third day, like the crescent moon, even less than crescent moon. And if there's sunlight, we cannot even see. If you're born so unlucky, it will not be good, right?
더운 날
So if you see yourself in the mirror, and if you wonder, why do I have such a flat nose and
그렇게 바꾸겠지 않으면 안 되겠다는 거죠. 그 여러분이
well, I saw it on the newspaper this morning. Because of the flat nose, they have done the surgery on the nose, and because of that, there is some problem with the eyes and also nose and everything. So I told Tetron not to do it. You guys will not do it, but I think I heard that you people also do that kind of surgery. Really, when you are born in the next life, if there's no next life,
여러분을 흘리자 그러면 보니까 여러분도 한다더라.
then we can just leave this world. But we are born inevitably in our next life, and the relation will also continue. And without accumulating virtues in this life, the moment that we are born next life, we are bound to live unhappy and also in a poor state. And then our life would also become unsatisfactory.
것은 세속복을
You understand?
태어날 때 태어나가지고도 박복하게 돼 있어. 그럼 또 사는 것이 공부예요.
So next life and also the life after that, for many lives, I have also said one of them has become the first lady, the other person has become president, and also very rich or like the top actress, or
정말 내가 그랬어.
has become like international the movie stars.
있고 한 사람은 대통령이 돼 있고 한 사람은 재벌이 돼 있고
Well, when I thought about it, I believe I have not really asked people to study with me in Zaksha Monastery. I repent a lot nowadays.
배우 세계적인 영화 배우가 돼 있고 무슨 뭐
I don't think I have asked people to study hard. Before, I thought if you study, then that's good, and if you don't study, then that's good. That's also fine. But nowadays I realize that I have to fry all of you, just like when you are making some anchovy side dish.
요즘에는 내가 아니더라고.
Then only you also do many good things. And if you are born again in your next life, well, this is also quite interesting. Even when you're making your donations, if the result, you can also make the result as 1, or you can also make it minus, or you can also double it.
다음 주에 태어났을 때 또 이게 웃기네.
Where
돈을 갖다가
it's not the same, but it's just like a stock investment. Sometimes if you buy a good stock, then you have a lot of benefits. And if you buy the wrong stock, then it reduces. It's against the cause and effect theory, but it's quite similar.
어떤 주식은
Well, if you have donated alcohol to the other person because the person drinks well, then that's a minus. It's a failure for both of you and me. If you have bought a shoe to some thief, then
양반이 술을 잘 먹는다라 술을 한 병 보시고
that's worse. Then if you buy shoe for such a person, then you should buy something that makes sound. Well, then maybe that helps. But if you buy a shoe that's silent, then even after you buy, it's also you're also accumulating your sin.
애들 신발 있잖아. 삑삑하는 신발.
For someone who is already full, if you give them food,
도움이 될지 몰라도
then with the meal that they have eaten,
살금 넘어가는
the person will become fat. And that person also will go through difficulty in order to lose weight. And also, even while eating, the person would suffer from dilemma.
놈은 그 밥 한 끼 먹는
Well, I heard that's what happens in France. That if you go to a restaurant or a fancy restaurant, I heard it from Dr. Zhang. He's saying it from Canada.
거 내가 안 먹을 수가
This is a saying of Dr. Zhang. I heard that they have about like 20 categories of meals, and the first appetizer they eat a lot, but then as the meal process progresses, you have better food, and so if you're not able to eat, then the chef would come and ask, is something wrong?
그 뒤에 쑥 좋은 음식
But you tell them that even if you tell them no, that's not the case, but you're full, then the people in France, what do? They go to bathroom and they throw up and they have to come back to eat again. So in the fancy restaurants, they have to learn how to throw up well, and what kind of that's very worse, right? So for someone who is already full, if you ask, what have I done? And if you keep feeding them, that is also committing sin. If I am eating with someone, if I'm eating with someone at a high level, well, those people they drink and they keep asking, and with the glass they have eaten, they wipe with your hand and they will also offer. And if you do things like that, then even if you have bought it with the money, it doesn't. You're not actually accumulating your virtue. It's almost like if you drop a drop of water in the wet sponge, then it absorbs the water very fast, right? So give a cloth to someone who doesn't have clothes, or give food to someone who is very hungry. Buying a meal to someone who is already full, that's almost like bribery. For someone who has money, if you give them money, isn't it a bribery? But I'm a little relieved while receiving this money. Why? Because I have no intention of I have no intention of using it for myself. I would rather use it to broadcast this, or I will spend it in Nepal. In reality, the money that I spend, well, I don't have much money to spend. Even the clothes, I have all of them. I have all the clothes. And about the car, well, I don't like them, and I don't have them, and it's very convenient. It cannot be more convenient. So sometimes the train is my car, and the bus is my car, and sometimes the Tico becomes my car, and sometimes I also drive a really good car, but I don't even know the name of the car. And some people complain that the car is very small, but it was not small. It's as big as the bus. I had no intention of spending money in things like that. And also, there's no money to be spent on alcohol or cigarettes because I don't do both. And also, my thoughts are also correct. So I don't even buy alcohol to people. And I have no intention of buying alcohol to people too. And also, for the workers who are working with me, even if I want to buy them a meal, they already pay before me, so it hurts my sentiments. But also, even if I want to buy them, I don't have much money in my pocket. And also, for someone like me who doesn't have money, I cannot even go and boast that I would pay. And also, at times when I want to buy, even if I tell them that I want to pay, they pay before me, and so my money always comes out of pocket, and my purse comes out of my pocket and just goes back. So even if I have some money, with the money that you donate, I learned it from Dalai Lama really strictly. This time when we went to Dash Lumpo, and about 10,000 people gathered and listened to teachings, and about 19 million was paid as donation. And for the teaching, they spent about 9 million because the electricity there is very poor, and then the mic doesn't work, and they cannot hear it from afar. So what happened? They brought a generator. So a lot of money was spent on the generator and also on the audio system. For about 10,000 people to listen in that area, they had to use a good one. And so all the money that they spent when they calculated, it was about it was quite a lot. So even the money that was given to Dalai Lama privately, he was still spent all that money to he also gave donations to the monasteries there, and he shared all of them, and he never even put anything to his pocket. Isn't it really perfect?
천명 가까이 되고
A monk
뭐 얼마 딱 나눠놓고
from the beginning to the end. It's not okay if you have something that belongs to us. And if you have something that belongs to you at the time of your death, how can you die because you feel so worried about it? Because you have to hold on to it, how can you die?
처음부터 끝까지 그냥 자기 걸 갖고 있으면 안 돼. 그리고 자기 걸
And
갖고
also, if you are too handsome,
죽을 때 그게 아까워서 어떻게 죽지?
how can you die if you're too handsome? It's also better not to be too handsome.
아까워서 어떻게 죽어?
If you're not very handsome, you're thinking that, well, it's about time to end it. And so you should just look like Minja. I believe you don't know who Minja is.
적당히 못생겨야
Do you know?
그때도 에이 이게 패기처분을 되겠구나 하고 저 민자처럼 생겨야 돼. 민자가 누군지 모르죠? 예?
Well, I'm also joking like this because I studied with Minja for about 30 years. That's why I'm also making jokes like this. But I am not joking about something that is not true.
민자 보살도 공부를 갖다 한 30 몇 년을 같이 해놓으니까 내가 이런 농담도 하는 거야. 이런 농담도 하는 거고 이제 그렇다고 사실이 아닌 얘기를 농담.
Well, if you say that is not true, then it makes it worse, so don't comment. For accumulating virtues.
예?
Well, sometimes I think of this. In Korean Buddhism, if we have great teachers like Tibet, and if they give us teachings again and again in places like that, where teachers, even if you over there in some places, like even if they give great teachings, they are not even heard loudly. But in Korea, because there are very less people who give such great teachings, someone like me, I can shine.
정말 좋은 말씀들 많이.
I went to Mongolia, and the whole day we were in the bus. We were in the car, and we could not even see a house, a single house. And about 12 o'clock, somewhere in the far, you see some light. And from the place where you could see, we traveled 1 hour, and we saw the care, and it was like a lodge. And
빛인가 불빛인가 한게 보여.
in that grand land, in that vast land, there was only one single electricity.
게르하우스가
And that you could see from like 1 hour distance by car. So if there is one thing, then
전기불 한 개 켜져 있거든.
then it shines brighter. If there are two suns, then we will have no light, no day or no night. Because we have only one sun, it's very bright and it's more catchy.
태양이 두 개가 있으면 재미가 없잖아. 한 개가 있으면 두 개가 있으면
So all of you, at least when you're doing something good,
보통 일이 아니야.
you really have to think this or these speeches or this things or this money or this behavior.
그래서 이제 여러분들께서 적어도
If they don't,
정말
if that person doesn't have that, and if that causes suffering to that person, you have to contribute.
돈이 이런 행위가 정말
It doesn't have much meaning even if you have a
저
lot.
사람한테는 없을 때
One of the most good example is maybe Mr. Lee and his family would find it not very favorable to listen, but they have, even if they have so much money, when his body is not very healthy, what can you do about it?
가족들이 들으면 불편할지도 모르지만
Even if there is something very delicious, he cannot even eat. And also for 200 to 300 years, we cannot stay alive. Even a very rich person can live up to like 80 70 or 80. There is nothing special.
200살, 300살까지 무슨
Where the song, The Life About 100 Years, it's a really good song. So I paid 700 Korean won and I did coloring for this. I paid 750 Korean won for this. At 100 years, when I'm 100, if they come to bring me from the other world, well, I will choose a good time and I will come on my own. So do not comment so much on it. Well, I heard that nowadays, if they call you at age of 80, you feel your self-pride has been hurt. So for something they really require, you should be able to give it to them, not just because you require them, but they require this. So someone like Konseum Bosar, like Avalokitesvara, well, it's a power. Konseum refers to the power that they can observe the the neediness of the neediness of them. The Buddhist teaching, was it Venerable Dorim? He said, I think he said this before, when he was practicing before. In order to alert other people, he climbed to the pine tree and he did it at the on the pine tree, and he would bring one cushion and sit over there. And when the wind blows, he would sway. And if he dozes off, then he could also die.
소나무 가지가 하나 있긴 한데 그 끝에 서는데 그 위에 자복을 갖다 하나 갖다 놓고 딱 앉아 있어. 바람이 불면.
And when someone came to see him, when he was told that he is at the tip of the tip of the tree, and he went and asked, "Why are you there?" And he said, "Well, because I'm sleepy." And when he was asked the question, "What is teaching of Buddha?" he said, "It's very easy. Do not do evil things, but do good things. But in order to do that, you have to let go of greediness in your heart." Well, isn't that something even 30-year-old kid can say? Well, it's even the 3 years old child knows, but it's very difficult thing to do. Even 80-year-old person finds it difficult. Just because we know doesn't mean it's easy to do it. We have been hearing from when you were young to be a nice person, but it doesn't look like we are really good. I think we are half good and half bad, even to the husband. Raise your hand if you think you are a really good wife to your husband. Well, I didn't ask you to lift your leg or foot, lift your hand. But we also have to ask your husband. Well, all of you would say, "I have done a great job. I have done the laundry, I have cleaned your rooms." And also, if they ask for tax, "I paid all the tax. I have done everything. I've also given him children." And even if you argue about all of them, but eventually you will have to ask your husband. Before, because the person was complaining about the husband, I heard that for a long time. So I asked the husband, while we were eating together, I asked about the wife. And he said, if I hadn't tolerated, then it would have ended very soon, way sooner. If I hadn't been tolerating, it would have ended. So you have to listen to the both sides. So if a judge calls or both victims and also the criminal, and they don't even they are not even able to talk or explain, so they have a professional like attorney or prosecutor, and so judge listens, and after they listen, when they have nothing more to say, then they say, "I'll make judgments." And also if there's no evidence, then they also take note that the person could have lied, and then they make their judgments after listening to the both sides.
이제 판결해 줬습니다.
It's easy to be prejudiced.
증거 없으면
If I only listen to you, then I could also think that your husbands are really bad people. But I know the law of relativity. So even if you do that, I know that the cause lies with you, the reason lies with you. So I'm not fooled. So I have questions to ask them.
보살님들이 그렇게 했다도
So that's why I deliberately asked that question.
속지는 않아.
When I say you have a good wife, they didn't answer.
분이한테 내가 물어볼 말이 있다니까. 내가 그래서 일부러
There was only mama
저 처사님 그 보살님 잘 얻었.
and when we were eating and talking, I realized that he had many complaints.
참 멋있는 분을 얻었습니까? 그러니까 대답 안 하고
There were diverse complaints, and when we compared the complaints of the husband and wife,
불만이 많아.
yeah, they were same, 50 and 50.
불만이 굉장히 많아. 여러 가지 불만이 있더라고. 그러니까 이게 두 개를 비교를 해보니까 부인이 불만 얘기한 거고
It's so odd.
두 개를 비교를 해보니까 쌤쌤이야.
I still have the basket made of bamboo that uncle gave me.
그러니까
My uncle is really good with bamboo work,
삼촌이 그 만들어준
and each time I carry that, I think it's a gift from the uncle who had many daughters.
잘릴 것이거든. 그래서 그 대나무를 갖다 내가 이제 그걸 갖다 이제 내가 들 때마다 요걸 막내 삼촌이 딸 많이 낳았네 삼촌.
So let's live our life in a good way, okay? Let's live our life helping others. And when we meet in our next life, where next life is something like this. Today we meet like this, and even if we meet tomorrow, that's also next life. Even if we meet next year, that's also next life. And even if we get rid of this body and meet in the next life, that's also the next life.
오늘 이렇게 만났다.
The next time we meet, I hope we meet at a little developed or improved state. If we have degraded, then it will hurt our feelings. If we have met in our next life, but if we can say, "Oh, everything worked out really well," because everything worked out well for you, I'm also happy. If we do that, then I'm also happy, right?
그 다음 생에 참 만났는데 아이고 참 잘 됐습니다.
If we meet in our next life,
참 잘 됐다니까 나도 행복합니다.
but because of too much drinking in this life,
그렇겠죠.
you went to school in your next life, but you are not able to study. Because you died as an alcoholic, you don't have the proper perception, so you cannot study hard.
술을 많이 먹고
And at the time, if you come and say, "Oh, I cannot study," and even now, if you come to me and say, "Oh, I'm not good at studies," and if I say that's because you drank too much in your previous life, they're also stubborn, so they don't even listen. And when they don't even listen, I cannot do anything to them. So if you come next life, there's no reason for you to do the plastic surgery by your nose or even buttocks. I heard even President Nomuyan also had one buttocks to straighten his wrinkle, just like with the you have to be born, just like that.
주사놓고 뭐 이마 부분
And that's only possible if you build up your fortunes. If you build up or accumulate fortunes or good luck, then you also become lucky. If you don't do that, then what happens?
그건 전부 다 내가 복을
You're born very empty.
복을 지으면 그 복상이 된다니까.
If you accumulate virtues, you're born very lucky.
복상이라 그러지.
And even the mind or heart, they use it in a way that's also very lucky. and someone who has not even done that, they even when they use their behavior, they don't use it in a very flattering way, but they are very petty. So next life and also the life after that, we are someone who we will be meeting. But if I study hard in this life, and if I do remember well, your all of you in this life, and if I meet you in next life, I could also comment, you look better than next life, previous life. You look worse than your previous life. I think if we can comment like that, it would be really great. But I don't know. But today we are not doing Gomlin Barba. And those of you who are watching it online, if you wonder why I am talking about something unrelated, the the last part is all about samatha vipassana, and it could also be difficult. So, and also when my aunts are also here, I shouldn't be the only one who's talking. So I spoke about Buddhism in general. I hope you understand. And if I may add only one more, all of you with Buddha's teaching and also your relation to it, you have to try your best to not to stay close to it. Go to monasteries often and also try not to do bad things and try to help others. Then you also have teachers approaching you, and you will also learn about the proper teaching. And if that's also the right path, then you could also practice that. And while you do that, you can also improve your life. So Buddha has practiced like this. And also has achieved a complete nirvana. And when we counted, he has studied about uh, 300,000 years. So try not to hurry, and also, even the long distance, we have to go slow. And also, while living in this life, even if you are aged and you don't have much left, but it's not that you don't have much left. Connected to your next life. If you connect that, then this time, even if you're 80 or 90 years old, this is at your youngest time. So it just means that you're old in this life. But if you look at the life in total, which is very far, still, even if you're connected to your next life, you're at your youngest. So no excuses like I cannot study because I am old, and also some of you, although you complain that you cannot eat well because of your teeth, you do eat well. If you don't have your teeth, with you eat? The statement is changed from gum to implants. If you don't have your own teeth, you eat with implanted ones. So even if you age, do not miss out your studies. And I also have a request. This is my last request. Even when we die, those people who has religiously recited their mantras, they're different. I've seen many people. Even if their recitation is a little weak, if I also recite together with them, their face, it lights up. It becomes way light. And that could also happen. So even if you are old, try not to rest with your recitation. Even if it's avalokitesvara, that's also okay. Or even if you're doing something else, that's also okay. Do not even think about practicing savatha or not.
쉬지 않고
If you only have your practice of concentration,
어떤 거라도
then
간세모사
even when you change your life, the body,
자마타행을 수행한다 안 한다 이런 것도
you will find your peace.
간세모사를 딴 생각 안 들어오고
If you do that, it becomes beautiful.
웃음만 되지만 나중에 이
And all of these are there in Buddha's teaching.
해서 간세모사 이렇게
So I hope you do it well.
편안하게 된단 말이야. 그럼 아름다워.
So even if we meet tomorrow, we'll be happy, and also the after tomorrow we'll be happy. We'll meet as a new person. If our spirit becomes clean, if our minds become clean, then we are new people. Do not meet with the yesterday's kind of unclear mind. Just end it the day. Even if you have fought with your husband with a boxing glove, if you have taken off your glove, you should let it go. You should let it go.
어저께로 딱 끝내. 그 순간 딱 끝내. 영감님하고 복싱 클럽을
Someone had some fight between the couple, and they have not been talking for 1 month. And I said, "Oh, I won't be able to drink the tea with you." And when they asked why, and I said, "For someone who is so stubborn, someone."
한 달간 말을 안 한다고.
How can I drink tea? You don't even talk to your wife for 30 days. And if I have some argument with you, you will not talk to me for 30 years. How can I drink tea with you? And that person was like, "Oh, is that how it works?"
한 달간 말을 안 하는데 나하고는 한 30생 정도는 말을 안
Well, even if you had some fights, if you turn around, you should let it go.
같이 차 한잔 하겠어 그랬더니 그게
The worst thing in this life is like, let's see what's going to happen.
하고 했더라도 뒤에 돌아서면 싹 없어야지. 응?
That's really bad thing.
세상에 제일 쪼잔히 두고 보자.
You don't say that, right?
너 두고 보자.
You don't do it now?
두고 보자는 여기죠, 그죠?
You didn't do it.
그 되게 안 좋은 소리야. 두고 보자는 소리 안 하죠.
So you have to end it at the spot. A practitioner,
전에는 했어. 전에도 안 하고.
if it ends there, and if you drink water next time, then you should only think about the water. But then if you are drinking water, after you have argument, then you are not drinking water, but you are drinking with him. That's not okay.
물에만 생각이 있어야지. 저 자식이 그리고 물을 마시면 물을 마시는 게 아니라 저 자식을 마신다니까.
Then even if something is not good, you have to end it there.
그러면 안 돼요.
If you have stopped, then you should have just let it go.
뭐 좀 안 좋은 일이 있었다고 그래서 그냥 그래서 바로
It should not even last up until tomorrow, okay?
그러면 스톱 걸어서
Not even 1 hour. You understood?
내일까지 가도 안 돼요. 내일까지 거의 오면 안 되겠고
Just end it there. And when you're drinking water, you should only think about drinking water. When you're eating, you should only think about eating. While eating, if you're angry,
아이고 예 아이고
and if you think about the other person while you're eating, what use does that have? So when that person came, I fixed his behavior. Go and tell her that you have done wrong today. Right immediately you go home. But that person said, "I've done nothing wrong." And I said, well, there's something you have also done wrong. And the person has given me food late when I was hungry. And I said, "Why didn't you prepare yourself?" And he said, "I've never been to kitchen." And I said, "That's the wrong thing.
지가 왜 밥을 갖다 늦게 지는 다 먹고
There's no law that says only your wife should go to the kitchen." And he asked if he should also go. And I said, if you don't want to be chased off, you should go into the kitchen and do some dishes.
부인만 부엌에 들어가는 법이 어디 있어 그랬더니
he came last time, and when I listened, he
나중에
said now if we fight, it only lasts up to 1 week. It reduced a lot. Before it was about a month, but now it's about a week.
그런 이제
So don't fight.
저번에 오셔가
This life is very short, and don't fight with someone you're going to meet again in your next life.
전에는 많이 줄어서
It's very useless, and if that happens, just think that the person is a little irritated, and if you calm the other person, then it would also lessen, and then the other person would also feel sorry or bad.
쓸데없는 일이고 그러거들랑 저 사람이 짜증이 나서 좀 걸어놨구나. 그러면 잘 따뜻구리
If the fight is about food,
그러니까
and also when something like that happens,
내가 짜증이 나서 그러던가.
you should also not say that, oh, I'm sorry, why are you complaining about it? That's also not okay. Then it leads to another argument.
그런데 또 이제 그렇게 할 때 성질이 만나가지고 참 잘 못했다니까 참 되게
You should try to fix the situation by smiling and also asking what you want to eat today. And in this short life, while living in this short life, let's try to live it in an interesting way. Next life, we should meet again in a beautiful relationship and
그렇게 다 웃고 짧은
in a rich, handsome, smiling, and also
다음
long life.
아름다운 인연
And also, all of us could also become husband and grandfathers,
모습으로 또 만나고 부자
grandmothers, and also we could also discuss about what is so henna better to dye our hair, and like that we would meet again. Let's do that, okay?
그러고 살
And by doing that, with smile, let's live our life in a happy way.
보면 좋소.
Today's essence is about let's let go of our greediness, attachments, just by little.
그래서 나는 웃으면서 행복하게 살고
Thank you.
그래야지 못 써. 욕심 내가 오늘 얘기는 욕심 내려놓자 그 얘기.